Hello, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us here again today. This is part two of our Friday webinars we just did on consular process. If you were there with us, thanks so much for joining us here again. And if you're new, glad to have you. Today, we're going to be talking about breaking news and immigration under Biden 2021. So, as we know, the inauguration was a very exciting day for all of us. We were all very excited. Biden is now the 46th president of the United States. So we're hoping for very good positive changes and an immigration reform. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I have here our managing attorney, Ruby Powers. And she will be giving you guys all the information that we've heard, what's been going on in the news, and what our predictions are. Ruby's predictions are as an experienced attorney who's been practicing under how many presidents now, Ruby? Would it be 3?
Well, no, it's 4 because it was like a month under Bush Jr. So, yeah.
Well, 4, guys, 4.
Yeah.
So she knows the ins and outs for the most part. So just a little bit of background on Attorney Powers. She founded Powers Law Group in 2009 in November. So we're about a decade strong over here, guys. She is a board certified immigration, and she's also considered an expert in asylum. Don't mean to brag. She is also an author of Build and Manage Your Successful Law Practice Without Losing Your Mind. It's a really good read. Would recommend to read into it if you are a business owner or know anyone who is. And now I'm going to finish my blabbering and I'll let Attorney Powers take away with the educational stuff.
Thank you so much, Dana. I appreciate your enthusiasm every Friday and Tuesday when we do our Powers Hour. So learning objectives, we just do this so that you know we're going to talk about immigration 2021, that proposed immigration reform, the Venezuelan memo on the DED, and the 100-day moratorium on deportations, and I don't like calling it the Migrant Protection Protocol. I call it Remain in Mexico ending, and then what to do to stay prepared. So let's continue on. So, man, like a good chunk of all of the executive orders that I'm losing track of the days that President Biden signed on the Wednesday, which is the 20th. So we're recording this on Friday, January 22nd in the morning, midday, just so that you can date stamp when this information is. So a lot of those things he was signing are related to immigration. I mean, imagine, let's just go back for a second. Past President Trump made around 900, there was about 900 immigration changes, and it reduced legal immigration by about 50%, 50.
Wow.
And so imagine Biden wants to get us back up to 100 and as fast as possible, 100%, and then even more, and so because Trump didn't address any of the problems, he made everything worse. I can't think of one thing he made better for immigration. Nope, that'll probably be a long wait for me to have to think, but let's move on. So nope, can't think of anything. But Biden, I mean, I've been going to DC for years. I've been advocating. I talk to congresspersons. I do op-eds. I've been advocating. I even ran for office about it because immigration spurred me into action. We need more. We need more than just, duct tape and Band-Aids on these problems. It hasn't been addressed in so many years. And so anyway, Biden has made immigration one of his key pillars to address. And so the proposed legislation titled United States Citizenship Act of 2021 provides a pathway for millions. And really what so let me go into this one particularly, the one that should say it has a lot of different aspects to it, but one of the things it has is really concerning the 11 million folks, and that is where if you have DACA. So this is a proposal. This is not real yet, okay? But if you have DACA and there's about 800 or so 100 people who have DACA, or if you have TPS and there's about 400,000 people who have that you could apply for a green card immediately. And then after 3 years of having a green card, you could apply for citizenship. For everyone else who doesn't have a status at all, but who was here by January 1st, 2021, so it's
Mhm.
not for anybody who shows up now, but like it had to be here on that date. And they usually do that. They backdate it when they announce because they don't want a flood of people coming. But that they would be able to get work authorization for 5 years, and then they would be able to then apply for citizenship. And right before starting this, I was reading a beautiful op-ed, and I want to read a couple of lines for you
Mhm.
because by George Will in the, I believe it's the Wall Street Journal. Let me find that really quickly because it has a lot of great numbers. If you are on this call and you're an immigrant, you're married to an immigrant, you're related to an immigrant, we're going to need your help to tell America that we need this bill to be passed
Yeah.
because this is the stars have aligned, having the Democrats in the House, the Senate, and the White House. And for this to be passed, it hasn't been passed in gazillions of years. That's an official number. But we're going to have to get the public rallying behind it. And a Gallup says, more than ever, Americans support increasing immigration than decreasing. Support for decreasing it has plummeted from 50% in 2009 to 28% today.
Wow.
77% call immigration a good thing and want favor citizenship for dreamers. 40% of unauthorized immigrants came not through the borders but were visas and overstayed. And a lot of this, 11 million, 62% have lived here for 10 years, 21% for at least 20 years without status. And this one is really heart-wrenching. Of the more than 5 million children under 18 living with at least one unauthorized parent, more than 4 million were born here. The thing is that their parents don't, one of them doesn't have status, and then they're having to work under the table and don't have a social usually, and are just that, just think what can happen. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. So, but one thing I wanted to say is like the reason why we need to do this also is because and to help pay into Social Security and taxes, and for have the work for our workforce has been aging, and so we need. That's sort of how you can help pitch this as why it's important, and so I'll quit reading that. But I was just really moved by that, and I will post that on our social media once
Yeah.
we're done with this. But the numbers are there. There's a lot of need. So let's continue on with what we were talking about. It's all related. But really, I just wanted to say that in advocacy, it's not a done deal
Mhm.
because it could be proposed, but in going in any negotiation, you're not going to get everything you ask for. And so we're going to have to, as advocates, we're going to have to go in and keep bringing this up. So this makes me want to write an op-ed after seeing that one. But I'm talking to you about it. So that's part of my duty for right now. So the immigration, going back to sharing. So here's some of the different things that he wants to do. He already signed announcement to ask to keep DACA in its full form, and he's not going to try to do anything to harm DACA. We through all the litigation, oh my gosh, so much. DACA as it from its original format still stands from the memo 2012. So, and then with this potential reform looming, if you don't have DACA and you're eligible, please apply. We need to get it going. So anyway, the next thing, so we're feeling good about that, but if you're collecting your documents, come on, get it, apply as soon as you can, because if this reform passes, there's going to be a lot of flurry with the firms and with immigration and everything else. For TPS, this would also give those people, the 400,000 or so, a chance to get a green card, and that's wonderful because many of them have been here since 2001 and have American children, American spouses.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that's really great is just that there's from the Texas point of view, many of the people with TPS live in Texas. Deportations, this was one of the first things he did was he put a moratorium on the deportation orders, which we're going to talk about a little bit. And asylum, oh my gosh, it's just been a battle on asylum. It's like, I think I read that Biden's, just has to sort of reinvent asylum in some respect, and try to put it back to it's a better form than where it was been torn down to. So limiting the 1-year deadline. Now this hasn't happened yet, but this is a proposal that it would be in that bill, because so many people and more funding to reduce asylum applications. There's such a shortage of asylum officers and the processing and everything. This would be amazing. It'd be amazing because we still have clients who filed in 2016 and haven't been able to haven't had their interview yet. So this also happened the very first day they got rid of the travel ban, also known as the Muslim ban. 4 years ago on this weekend, he put that in action. Trump administration did, and I still remember that weekend very vividly, and everything that happened, because that was a taste of what was going to come. And so glad we've already gotten calls and emails from people wanting to reunite their families. So grateful that this has been rescinded, and to get rid of the idea of the border wall, but to put more reinforcement, which is understandable, but leveraging technology, which makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Now, the Trump administration, one of the very last things he did, which I think was on Tuesday, maybe, I was double checking all of this, was to announce Venezuelan deferred and forced departure. There are approximately 200,000 Venezuelans who could, when they did research about the temporary protected status, there isn't a TPS for Venezuelans, but there's so many Venezuelans in the United States right now that when there was research done on that, they realized there's about 200,000 Venezuelans that could benefit from TPS or work authorization. Trump administration, one of the very last things he did was to offer a work authorization. It defers deportation with someone who's been originally from Venezuela and who's present as of January 2021. And so that it doesn't apply to Venezuelans who voluntarily returned to Venezuela, those who have not continuously resided since January 2021, who are inadmissible under security, convicted of a felony, who were deported or removed prior to January 20th, were subject to extradition. There really, it sounds like it'd be hard to be excluded. I can't think of, except for like maybe the felony or a deportation order and you didn't do anything about it. So if you came and you don't have work authorization, or you, your asylum was referred and you're still, but you would probably have asylum work authorization while it's pending. But this will keep you from being deported and give you work authorization. So this just happened this week. With all the change, we're still catching up with everything, and we're getting that information out. And then the 100-day moratorium on deportations, which came out on Wednesday, that does say that there's some restrictions, was not physically present in the U.S. before November 1st, 2020. Those people are, this is a pause, that way that they can review everything, except this doesn't apply to those who were not physically present in the U.S. before November 1st, 2020, who were voluntarily agreed to leave. So there's some exceptions, but for the most part, we've also heard rumors, or we've heard that some people who have been detained have been released. And this is giving some people a chance to just get a handle on what's going on, because there's going to be a new attorney general. And then with that trickles down into the policies and procedures. They can reverse a lot of the cases that the prior attorney generals under Trump administration had, including especially Barr, had had given to themselves and made a decision unilaterally without the board's review. Anyway, so that's giving a chance to take a breather, make sure that no major decision has been made that that later will have irreparable harm. The other thing that's really amazing that just happened too was that they got rid of the migrant protection protocols, which was put in place. I'm losing track of my years, but I remember where I was exactly. I was in San Diego on my way back from Tijuana when they announced that in December 2018. And then we had the, yeah, that's right. And then remember when we had that whole government shutdown right afterwards and into January 2019.
Yeah.
So this is this is started about 2 years ago, and it's left a lot of people, thousands of people, waiting in Mexico in basically makeshift refugee camps, if you will, waiting for their chance. And no one was allowed in for the majority of last year due to COVID. So now people will be able to come in and be able to apply for asylum or what have you, but they will be processed normally. But anyway, I'm glad that this was not a form of justice. There was new due process there. So that ended. So we're going to start taking some questions, but the biggest thing we're trying to keep straight is what's changed, which I told you several things that are big that have changed, getting rid of the Muslim ban, securing DACA, getting the moratorium and the Venezuelan DED, deferred deportation. So, but there's also what is proposed. So we have to keep those separate. What's proposed, it looks amazing, and we'll monitor that super closely. So what can you be doing to be stay prepared? Well, have a consultation,
Yeah.
build a relationship, let us know about you. Might tell you, oh, we need to do a Freedom Information Act request about this, or go collect this document, go find the criminal record, go find these birth certificates, divorce decrees, because a lot of that stuff is taking a lot more time than normal because of COVID. And so just having that consult, and then also we've already built a relationship. We'll have some notes about you in case we're, continue to monitor further reform. The other thing is you collecting documents. Like some of the things I would probably suggest you do is, know where all your taxes are, that you can prove that you've been here. Get your children's birth certificates and the marriage certificate, divorce decrees, or death certificate. We'll get all those civil documents in one place and get them in English if you haven't already. We don't know what these, if you're going to be applying for one of these reform, we don't know what it's going to look like, but those are generally the things that take the longest and you need to have in order. Get added to our newsletter, and we have a link we'll put in the chat, and we'll also show you in a slide next. And then also watch our webinars. We'll take questions, we'll take suggestions, and we will let you know more of as much as we can. And if you have a suggestion on anything, we will tell you about it. We'll do it, because so next week we're doing H-1Bs, but I think that we're also going to maybe change it if we have to, or maybe do a double hitter if we have a lot of demand on another topic. So these are all very important. Now I want to take any questions, but there's so much change happening, and so if we didn't hit up on something. Now there was a question that was emailed to us, and it was about the and I'll let you go also maybe read some of it, but there's a lot of people have been asking about the legal permanent residents who are outside of the country, who couldn't get back in because of COVID, either the restrictions in the country they were in, the restrictions to travel into the US. But of course, legal permanent residents and citizens were exempt from coming into the US from those bans. They didn't refer, but the problem was more of like if their health or the country they were in wouldn't let them in. Now, there hasn't been a blanket policy. Nobody has said, okay, we're going to give them an extension for 6 months or a year. Nothing has been said that I have heard of. And so what we've had clients come in who were out, green card holders who had been out for more than a year. One was out about 14 or 16 months, and they still were able to get in without the travel permission. I know that's not ideal, but we've had some recent talks with people about that they're getting near their 2-year mark. I don't know. I think that's getting a little bit harder to sell. The SB1 visa is a potential. I think it's more of something you have to reach out to the embassy or consulate near you to be able to negotiate that. But if someone, you have more detailed questions, we could do a consultation about that. And so we'll, I think I hope that covers that emailed question. So Dana, why don't you, I see this first one here about the B3 visa. I don't know if you're talking about the EB3, the green card for the skilled or the unskilled or the professionals. So maybe if you want to just double check that, but we don't have a B3 visa. So if you want to retype it, let me know. Okay, Dana, I'll let you read and I'll take a sip of water.
Okay, so thank you guys for all these questions. So we do appreciate it. So the next question, my documents expire starting in October. Can I start renewing now? We may
I
need to know
think
what documents.
I think this person might be talking. Well, let's just assume it was DACA.
Mhm.
Um, if it were for DACA, you're supposed to wait the 150 days, but we had people apply even a year early in at the past. I'm losing track of 150 days. Isn't that supposed to be 5 months? So October, it's a bit early. But I would probably wait, just because of the that's still a little bit early. We don't know also what they're going to say if the bill passes, for assuming like DACA, like how much your validity you still have to have, or if you just had to have had DACA. We don't really know, but I would wait a little bit closer to the deadline, and within that 150-day window, more or less, or at least 6 months, I think. So that's what I would say with that one. The next question,
The next
yeah,
question is the Biden's immigration reform expected to remove public charge grounds, i.e. that
yes.
944?
Oh yeah, I'm excited. Yes, we believe so, and I talked about that a little bit in the last webinar. But basically, the harsh policy came into effect around February and March for the USCIS and Department of State of 2020, and there was lots of litigation. So much, it was like a daily affair to figure out: do we submit it? Do we not? Do we submit it? Do we not? Um, and they're planning, if the Biden administration doesn't want it, all they have to do is stop fighting it in court, and then it can go and rescind it as well. So we haven't gotten verification that it is no longer needed, but our anticipation is that it will be taken away and we won't have to deal with it. But at this moment, we're still submitting it, unfortunately. Next question about asylum.
Yeah, we got an asylum question. So for asylum, what good news would the new administration bring?
Well, a lot. I think what I've heard is that they want to sort of reevaluate asylum in general, for the better, because so many cases were announced in the last 4 years that really chipped away one piece at a time, from the importance of what made asylum asylum. So, I mean, one of the things we talked about in the other slide was that giving more funding, okay, for the interviews. Like, for example, the Houston Asylum Office covers Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma, but we have the border. And so anybody who comes to the border, the Asylum Office in Houston has to help support the people for those credible fear interviews. So if we had, it said the proposal is to have more funding, that means if we get more asylum officers, they can think more rationally about how to structure and put more people to affirmative interviews, while maybe there'll be people at the border. That is all something else. So getting rid of the 1-year filing deadline, which will allow more people to apply, being able to have more funding for asylum, and also to be able, well, just if they could rescind a lot of those horrible case law that then Attorney General Barr had made, and including like a ton of matter of AB, they really were dissecting asylum one by one. So those are things that we'll continue to monitor. But for those who've been here waiting, my hope is that I would, fingers crossed, hope that they would get rid of the last in, first out policy, and then let the people, it would be who've been waiting the longest, have a chance. As well. So, I mean, the other thing to think about is that if a person was applying for asylum, I don't, it's a fathomable that they could also apply for this reform, especially if they don't want to wait, or they're not sure if their asylum will get approved with all the changed circumstances. So, those are some other things to consider, because we do know that it would be 5 years of work authorization. But if the person kept waiting for their asylum, they could, and get green card, they could get approved. They won't have to wait a year to get their green card. Okay, next question.
So lots of questions rolling in. What can you expect if you were referred to immigration court after an asylum interview? Would they reverse the NOID or have to go through the process? Is having to redo biometrics a sign of anything?
Um, okay, that's a lot of different questions all in one. But if you get referred from asylum interview to immigration court, then that just means the asylum office didn't grant it on the spot. It doesn't mean it was denied, and it just means that they want the judge to make a decision, and they don't want to make the decision. So it wasn't necessarily, I don't think, a notice of intent to deny. It was more of a referral. It wasn't a denial. So what happens is when you go to the court, you embellish, no, that's the wrong word. You improve upon the application that was previously submitted, maybe give more articles, or you might better update the statement, or different things that might need to be updated since so much time has passed, or if something had been forgotten, whatever. And once you update that with the court, you will then you're waiting for a hearing, and on that hearing, which usually could be anywhere from an hour to 3 hours or more, your attorney will ask questions to you, where were you born? Basically, all the questions the asylum officer had asked you, you'll be doing in the course of the hearing, but your attorney will be asking them. So you'll know the questions in advance, but they're proving up your asylum case, and then they'll be able to, the trial attorney can also do cross-examination, and the attorney can ask a question at any point, and then the attorney has a chance to redirect. So doing biometrics is good because it just means they're updating the biometrics. They have to be up to date by the time you do the hearing. I wouldn't think much of it other than things are moving forward. So I think that helps answer that question.
Okay. And another one regarding asylum, what is proposed versus what is already news based on executive order?
Okay. All right. Oh, sorry. Regarding asylum, what is proposed versus what is already? Well, I mean, I'd have to write that out. I mean, so, okay, okay. This really comes down to what changes can be done with an executive order or proclamation, and what can be done has to be done with Congress, as well as what can be done with a policy change, as well as what can an attorney general or a case law change. So what is proposed is to get rid of the 1-year filing deadline and to give more funding to asylum. There might be a lot more there. What's already news based on the I don't think anything has touched exactly asylum in the last 48 hours. They touch it in an indirect way with getting rid of having the moratorium on deportations, to getting rid of the MPP, the Migrant Protection Protocol, and yeah, I think so. As for asylum, not a lot can be done through the executive orders. More of the harm was done with the Attorney General's office with their case that they made. Okay, so the next question.
It's about the B3. I thought that there was going to be a B3 as against the B1, B2 visa class that would allow me to come to the US to visit my family that failed for asylum in the US.
I have never heard of a B3. You might want to have a consult or email me. I don't know if this is a proposal, or I've never ever heard of a B3. I thought you were just saying EB3, but I haven't. So you can tell me about it. I don't know. I have never heard of that one. So if you say I thought there was going to be, so maybe this is a proposal you've heard of, but love to chat about it afterwards, so I could find out more about it. I think so. Sorry, we couldn't help out much on that question. The next one.
When petitioning a relative, how long should the health insurance cover them?
Okay. Oh, and also there's some questions in the chat, it looks like, too.
Yes.
Well, the thing is that the reason why we were even doing that health insurance part was because of the stricter version of the public charge, but they might be getting rid of that. So like the current thing is, though, it should be covered at the time of the adjudication, but it'd be great if it's more as well. But you know, that was more of an extension of the harsher, stricter public charge. So it just needs to be current at the time of adjudication and usually beyond. But if also it depends, I think you're talking about consular processing or adjustment of status, what the concern is. But feel free to have a consult or ask us more closely with more details. Thank
Okay.
you.
Next question. I applied for asylum and had an interview in 2019. I haven't heard anything so far. Do you think this new reform will help my case?
Okay, well, let's break it down. So if someone had an interview in May 2019 and doesn't have a result, I would do some advocacy, either you know, emailing the asylum office and asking for an update, because that's a really long time. You know, that's a year and a half. Now, if someone were to work for the military or the police, or there's an intelligence or a background check, then that would probably be around reasonable, but it's getting a little bit long. So I would do advocacy. Either you could hire an attorney or try to do it on your own. Reform, I think it could help because the funding part of having more staff, but even if it gets passed, let's say next week, which it won't, it's too soon, then it takes a while to move forward. They have to hire people, train them. I mean, we probably won't see a lot of change, even just with the funding part for until maybe halfway through the year or more, you know, depending on how quickly they can move. The second question is about company applied for a green card. Okay. Okay. What? Yeah, I would have a consult, because this is very specific to where you are. um, whether or not the asylum pending is considered a status while you apply for something else. So like, for example, I had a similar situation and the clients were in Houston and the district court said, no, that doesn't count for green card pending, the asylum pending did not account to accrued unlawful presence and didn't count to just a green card. And then, but in the clients who had lived in Austin, their district court said it was okay. So that is a very specific question that you're going to need to tell me where you live and what's going on with the case. So I wish I could help more, but just letting you know that that's not a simple answer to that one. Okay,
Yes.
next question.
So I'm going to go to the one that's on the chat. This one's also a little
Okay,
bit extensive, but
well,
the question is, my work authorization expired November 11th. Though I am in removal, recently applied for VAWA. What is the chances of me getting another work authorization renewed?
well, the VAWA takes a long time to get work authorization. You have to have the prima facie finding before you can apply for the work authorization. So um, if you can renew it under the reason why you had it for the removal. I mean, I have had some clients have work authorizations based on, they could apply it under 3 or 4 different, not 4, but like maybe 2 or 3 different ways. And some of them, they didn't have to pay the filing fee. Sometimes they did. So they sort of decided based off of that. But if you can renew the one that you got under removal, I would do that, because the VAWA is going to take you a while. Yeah, that's what I would suggest. And is this the same question twice? I think so. In the chat? I think so. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you're on mute. All right.
Okay,
So,
sorry,
yeah.
but thank you for
Yeah.
that. Moving on to the next question. If I'm just about to file my asylum case, say later this month, is it better to wait until later after any news rule, I'm guessing about the reform, or go ahead right now as planned?
Okay. I'm about to file my asylum. It's better to wait. Well, I think it'd be good to have a consult to double check what,
Mhm.
like, the possibility of approval, what's going on with your, just sort of to see the bigger picture to answer that question. But my thought, my initial thought is apply if you feel like it's a strong case and you're, because the whole getting rid of the 1 year filing deadline hasn't happened yet. And so, and what if it doesn't happen? What if that's one they can't get changed? So if that was your intent, and you're within the 1 year and you have a strong case, I would go ahead and apply and be in queue. They are not really granting the whole last in, first out the last 3 years. I mean, the 3-year-old policy, it hasn't really been happening, especially during COVID. It seems like they're more focusing on those who have expedites and reschedules. So, all things being equal, I would say just plan to file, especially if it's a strong case, you're in the 1 year filing deadline. But it'd be great to have a consult to be able to know more about that before just saying that. But this is what I'm also thinking, everyone. If this passes, like every immigration office, every individual, there's going to be notarios like opening up and people filling out forms. Like immigration offices are going to be slammed. Like if you're eligible for something now, you might as well apply for it and get it cooking, and that you're in line ahead of the big push, the big wave, the tsunami that's going to happen, very likely. And also, like, what if some of this stuff doesn't happen, like we said? So those are my other concerns. So just keep that in mind.
Great. So our last and final question, those
Yeah.
who are already on asylum, would they benefit if the proposed pathway to citizenship comes through?
Well, the way that's written, it doesn't sound like, okay, I think I was sort of answering that in another way, but my thought is this. If you are still waiting for the asylum interview and you want to apply for the reform bill, then unless they say you can't do it, which I doubt they would, I don't see why you wouldn't apply for both. And then depending on if you get the asylum interview and it's approved, then take that, because that will allow you to apply for a green card in 1 year. But if it doesn't get approved or what have you, then you can always use the reform. We've also had this happen before where people were eligible for TPS, like Syrians, for example, or Nepalis. They were eligible for TPS and they were applying for asylum. And they got the TPS while the asylum was pending, but when the asylum got approved, they just went that route and didn't renew the TPS. So I think that it's a good analogy to how it might work. So I think that it's very strongly possible for you to use this reform, especially due to the potential timing of it all. So hope that answered that question. Do we have any? Okay. Okay. So if you're in Houston and you've been referred to court due to pending asylum, should you try to get an H-1B? Well, there's the question is, do you have an underlying other visa? You probably don't if you got referred to court. So the law, because they wouldn't refer you to court if you had a status at the time of the decision, they would have just denied you or given you a notice of intent, notice of an not intent to deny. What's the one? Intent. I forgot the word right now. It's something like a notice of intent to deny. But so very likely wouldn't work, because employment-based visas, you need to not have any unlawful presence. And we talked about it being in Houston. So very likely it would not work with that case that I had mentioned. If the asylum was pending, but there could just be one case law that could change this. And so last I checked, that wouldn't be a good idea. But maybe it'll get better. And also we're still monitoring what's going to happen with the H-1Bs. They could make a big change of that really soon. And so we'll continue to monitor that. I would say just have a consult and maybe have somebody keeping an eye on that for you. But you would very likely need at least some of the case law to change based off of the unlawful presence debate that Okay, so I think we answered all the questions. Hopefully that was helpful. If anybody has any, again, I'll let Dana take us away, but we're glad you joined us. We do these every Friday, normally at 11, but we did a double hitter today and did one at 12 on this topic, late breaking. So thanks for joining us at the last minute. And she'll tell you more about how to stay connected with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Ruby. And yeah, guys, again, thank you for all your questions. Again, we want to be a reliable source of information to you all. We send out a bi-weekly newsletter with immigration trends and updates as have been going on in the news or anything new that either the White House puts out memorandums, what have you. We try and stay up to date with those and also with local news. So if you want to register to our newsletter, you can go to our website at rubypowerslaw.com. It's up here. And a pop-up will immediately show up. You type in your email and bam, you're signed up. And feel free to also hang around with us on our other social medias. We post there regularly, again, with information that we hear today. So today, for example, we will be posting the op-ed that Attorney Powers was talking about. So if you guys want to check that out, it'll be on our social medias. And next week, we will be talking about, it's going to be employment based, and it's going to be immigration and business, all about the H-1B. So I'll be putting a link down below so you guys can register for that. If you guys have any questions about H-1Bs, are interested, know anyone that does, please direct them over here. If they have any questions, we do love answering you guys' questions. And we're also open to suggestions on topics. So if there's anything that you guys want to talk about or would like to hear more on, just send us an email, give us a call, and we would most definitely go ahead and do that. So I think that is it for us today. Attorney Powers, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that I think somebody asked, they missed the answer, but I don't remember which one that was their question, if it was about the H-1B and asylum or not, but feel free to email us or call us. But in general, you really need to make sure that you're following the law closely, because we're quickly seeing the shift from the Trump era into the Biden era. And there's the changes that have already been made, many of them already, mostly just with executive orders and proclamations. And then there's the ones that'll are proposed. And so we're keeping tabs on all of those things for you, and stay connected with us so that we can continue to monitor what's best for your cases. And thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, guys. I put the link for next week's webinar down in the chat. So I'll give you guys a second to register for that if you all would like to. If you guys missed any of our previous videos, go check those out. They're on our Facebook and on our YouTube. But yep, that'll be it for today. Thank you guys so much.
Okay.
You all have a great.
And the one last question: when would be a good time to reapply for the B1, B2 visa? In my home country, after being denied about a year ago, yeah, usually a year wait is a good amount of time to wait. They might not be entertaining the applications right now in your home country, but that's a good time. You also would want to wait till that they're open, and as well as they're taking applications, and that you show a difference in what happened in the past to what you're doing now. And you might want to give it like another couple of weeks if you have a choice, just to let the new administration to take a little bit more effect into the policy planning and things and decisions and deference.
Well, I think that's it. Thanks again for all those questions, guys. We really do appreciate it. And yeah, I think that'll be it for today. You all have a great rest of your weekend.
All right. Thanks so much.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Bye.